Well, I think I figured out what happened here to this cabinet, as far as why the top section was separating. I see right now I've got a clamp on it. I've also taken out the plywood that was blocking the vent hole. Look around here. Hopefully this, well, it's kind of going to blind the camera. Okay, if you come back in here, you see up here the staples are sticking out, and then there was a big gap here, and this piece was messed up, so it looked like this panel had separated. So I think I found out why. Because the shelf was lowered to fit that color monitor, it originally was here and it was moved to there. I think what happened is when he took these blocks off and then he put them down here. I think when he put that block down here, he was trying to hammer those staples in with the cabinet upright like this, and that caused the top to separate. And then he tried to push this back, and that pushed the staples out because the staples didn't go back into their exact same original holes. That's my thought on what happened there. So what I've done today, I popped this back panel. There was a right here where it's still not quite flush. This had been cut on both sides. So this piece of wood that runs from the top all the way down the side is one piece of wood, but it was cut there. And also try not to blind with the camera or the flashlight, the light, whatever. It was cut over there as well. This piece of wood goes from here all the way down to the opening for the interlock, backdoor interlock switch. So I took some drastic measures and I've screwed things together. I don't think this is original Atari glue here. I think whoever did it tried, or someone else tried to glue it back together, and of course glue sticking to this vinyl probably didn't work too good. So I had just gone ahead and pulled these staples out so they're not trying to go back into the original holes. And then I drilled countersunk screws to hold this stuff together, and it's much tighter than it was. I would have had to push the side panel way over to get all the extra glue out. So I didn't do that, but it is it's like just like fingernail tolerance now instead of giant gap that you can see light through. So I kind of hate doing that, but this cabinet is not, it's, again, I'd have to take this whole entire cabinet apart and put it back together, maybe reproducing some of the parts as I go. So now that I've done that, I haven't taken that brace, Harbor Freight brace that I got for a different project. Glad I got to use it again. I haven't taken that off. Hopefully it will hold its shape with the screws holding it together. It should. It's still a bit wobbly, but I believe that is because it's missing this piece of wood here. That piece of wood goes from here down. It's about 17 inches long. It goes into this piece here and stops about here. And then it also goes on the other side where you might be able to see with the lighting that there's the remnants of where the other piece of wood was that holds it to that side. So I'm going to have to reproduce that whole panel. But I think that's why this thing is still a little bit side to side. I mean, it's a hell of a lot sturdier than it was, but getting that piece of wood in there will take care of it. As for what happened with the shelf, he did I keep saying he, could have been a her. The operator, whoever that did this change, used the original pieces of wood that were glued and stapled to hold the shelf and the original monitor shelf. I thought the monitor shelf was cut because it's 18 and 7/8 wide instead of 19-inch wide, which is what it should be in here, at least what I measured on my other cabinet, which I think is the correct width. But it is the original parts. When he took the original one out, these support pieces, which of course are not within reach of me right now to show you, the pieces, the blocks of wood that were here and stapled and glued, he popped those off and the shelf with it, and then he broke them off of the shelf, flipped the shelf upside down, and flipped the blocks upside down so you would have a smooth surface for the two to sit on. But he didn't glue them, fortunately for me. He didn't glue them together. Just big, huge bolts going through them. So I found that the pieces of wood, and here, I'll get one. Sorry about that. Not prepared, of course. All right. Here's the piece of wood for this side, and you'll see it's got remnants of plywood on it from him ripping the shelf off, because if you turn the whole thing over, then these blocks would be up here and the shelf would be below. So, well, the white, he couldn't have just spun it around, I don't know, but anyway, it doesn't matter. What matters is they have staples sticking out, so I backed those out so that they're not poking through the bottom. You can see remnants of the discoloration from the glue that originally glued it in place. And then whoever did this drilled a giant hole there and a giant hole there and used really thick screws to glue this. And, well, actually, they didn't even glue it. They just drilled the two holes to hold this monitor shelf to the side of the cabinet in the new position. So one of these pieces, these tabs, actually both of them, they were folded over. So I think he might have tried to pound them back in, and they just folded over instead of going into the wood because whatever. So I was trying to figure out, how do I figure out where the original position of these were, and I noticed two slightly countersunk holes in each one near the front and one near the back. So I looked at my Asteroids Deluxe Cabaret, and that's what Atari did, or whoever manufactured the cabinets. They held, because this is holding the monitor up, they didn't just glue and staple it, they added a screw front and back. So that let me figure out which one of these belongs on which side, and I can put it in the exact same position it came out of by lining up the screw hole with the original screw hole. Probably can't do it while I'm on camera, and the light's all messed up, but yeah. So by finding the original hole in the back, then I swing it and I find the original hole in the front, and the thing sits flush. So it's a perfect fit. I'm not able to do it right now because I'm trying to film. Oh, there we go. Got it in. So now it is at its, well, yeah. So I can get it at its exact original position, exact original height. Now it still has this crappy messed up stuff from the monitor shelf bottom, but I think what I'm going to do is kind of what the other person did. I'm going to put a bunch of wood glue on here, not that it's probably going to do anything. I'm going to re-screw these in, and then I'll probably do another couple just to be sure. And then I'll put wood glue all over the top of both sides of this, and I'll put the original monitor shelf back on it, right side up. And when that's in place, it should sit flush, and the nicer side of the plywood will be facing up, so it'll look better, it'll look more original. And the remnants that you'll have to deal with, there's just some extra holes underneath from where this was moved to. So that's actually going to work out really well. Really happy about that. And I obviously decided to start working on that now. Once I get these screwed in, I will lay the cabinet. I'll probably take it outside to my garage concrete floor, lay down a blanket, and then I will pound these staples back in. And whether they're going to go into the wood or just fold over, I don't know, but I'd like the extra assurance. They should go into their original holes, because all I did was pound them so they're flush on the bottom. So as long as these screws that I'm screwing in hold it in the exact same position, then these should be in the exact same position they originally were when they were hammered in. Well, they weren't hammered in. I'm sure they used pneumatic tools. But the reason that they were folded over when whoever it was tried to pound them back in is because they were probably sticking out some and were probably bent from having been pried out. I did find a couple of the legs that were a little bit bent, so I straightened them up, I pounded them flush, so they should go back in. But with the cabinet down on its side while I'm hammering in this direction, I won't be blowing the side panel out because it'll be down on the ground. So that should get the original shelf back, which means that my kind of temporary plan for running some other game in here might be thwarted by the fact that I am going to have that monitor shelf so high up that I can't fit an actual CRT that's very large at all. Here you can see the original monitor shelf. You can see some discoloration on that side. That is because he put that side down, so that didn't weather quite as much. But you can see the black paint. That's the original black paint from when it was in the cabinet, and the original inspection tag, it actually went this way in the cabinet if you're looking at the back like that. And for whatever reason, it's not 19 inches wide. It's, like I said, it's 18 and 7/8. So I'm not sure why it's not the exact width of the game, but I guess it maybe wasn't a high tolerance piece. And here you can see where the plywood's all tore up, because this is the side that those wood blocks were actually on when it was in the cabinet like this, and the guy ripped them off, glued them upside down, and then put this in upside down. So it will be going back in its proper orientation with the proper blocks in the proper place. Another thing I discovered is that the harness that was in here was the original control panel harness. This little paper tag, if you can see there, is dated 3 of 81, so March of 1981, which is exactly the same as the paper tag on my Asteroids Deluxe Cabaret. The only thing that I had to do to the control panel, you can see there's one connector there that's plastic, and the other ones are just the bare type with no plastic covering them. That one, the connector was broken off on the Wico joystick that this was connected to. So what the guy did, again, sorry, I keep saying guy, he had the start 1 and 2 were the original cone buttons, and then the joystick used 4 of the original buttons for up, down, right, left, and then this second one here he just zip tied to the harness because he didn't need that one, but he didn't cut anything. So it all went back and actually fit. So I don't have any spare white buttons, but I've got spare red buttons that are brand new that I've had for years and never used on a project and then took them off. Surprise, surprise. So here you can see the original control panel, which, if I hold it up to the light, you can see the extra holes. There's 4 on the top for rivets, 4 on the bottom for rivets, and 2 extra holes that were for the joystick. And then the 2 buttons there next to, above the shield button, they just were modified a little bit to get the other 2 bolts for the joystick in, but the buttons actually cover all that up, so you don't even see that they've been modified. The coin button, or the volcano buttons, I don't know if they light up yet. I haven't tested them. They were missing these. My Asteroids Deluxe has metal washers, and then there's a square nut that goes over the volcano buttons so they don't stick up really tall. So I have a pair of spare volcano buttons that they've got melted. The LEDs are melted, the red part, and one of them is aluminum cone and one is a plastic cone that's had a cigarette burn melt. So I took the washer and the nut off, which were plastic on that one, even though they're metal on my other Asteroids Deluxe. It's probably whatever they had on hand. And so I was able to rebuild this control panel with the thought of maybe running some games. I've had my eye on for a while. There's a guy that's made remakes of Omega Race, Zector, Star Castle, Asteroids, called Space Rocks, and they're all 1024 by 768 PC games that he made, and you can reassign the buttons to whatever you want. So my thought was, well, I'm waiting to see if I'm going to restore this to an Asteroids Deluxe, which I guess would be the end result of me selling it because I already have one. I thought I'd just put that panel back in and then I made a project, a 10 key, using Pro Micro to decode a switch matrix. So basically, if I plug that into a PC, and then I can piggyback off the wires of it, and then assign those buttons to that, and plug them into a PC in the cabinet, and then put some kind of a VGA monitor in there, then I should be able to use the original control panel with its original buttons to play the remakes of those Vector games, which I thought, well, that'd be a pretty cool project. And entirely feasible. Now, unfortunately, by moving the monitor shelf back to where it originally was, there's going to be a lot less room in there for a VGA monitor. So I was thinking an old computer monitor, like a 15-inch computer monitor, but I don't think 15 will work. I think that Sanyo monitor I have is 13, and I don't know if it will work with the original shelf in there. I'm not going to pull the monitor out of my other Asteroids Deluxe and try and put the Sanyo in there. So I'll be putting this one back together and seeing if that'll fit. If not, it'll look silly, but I could put one of the 2 10-inch monitors from my bar top project that I did into the cabinet. And so, oh no, I can't, because they're not VGA, they're CGA. Never mind. So yeah, so the current plan is to put the original shelf back, because I'd like to get this back to at least original configuration and sturdy. So put the original shelf back, reproduce the wood panel that goes across the cabinet that'll give it that extra bit of stability. Probably reproduce the fluorescent light panel that will light up the marquee, even though, as per prior videos, the marquee has got white melt spots. Also, the coin door has white melt spots on the reject buttons. I thought it was just white paint, but no, again, it looks like paint stripper that got onto them and melted into the plastic, because I went over with Novus. I looked at it under magnification, and they are indented. It's not paint that's on top of the plastic. It's something that's melted into the plastic. I took off the broken coin slot surround. The other one, I took off the flap and put on my Asteroids Deluxe because it has only had one flap the whole time I've had it, and now it's got a matching pair, but this one is missing both. I took off the lock bar on the front, the lock pieces. So I was thinking Arcade Shop sells surrounds and flaps. They say they're for Coinco and Williams doors. I don't know for sure if that's going to fit or not, but I was going to order those. They claim to have the red coin inserts, but they're $10 each and they're sold out. However, it looks like the ones that are on my current Asteroids Deluxe look like the ones that Arcade Shop shows as their reproductions. And I do have two new old stock 50-cent inserts that I found inside one of the project machines that I had bought years ago, and I've just been saving. So I might put 50-cent, brand new 50-cent ones into my Asteroids Deluxe that I'm keeping, and then move those repro ones over here to make this one nicer, and then order flaps for that. Other thing I figured out, over there on the floor behind the monitor, you can see the speaker, which I didn't think was original. That is the original speaker. That is the original Asteroids 4-ohm speaker that was in this machine, that the foam between the cone paper and the frame has completely rotted away. I did see, I was looking on Clav, and somebody talked about a foam repair kit, and I had never heard of that, and I went to Amazon, and sure enough, you can actually buy a kit that has the foam ring that goes in between the two pieces and adhesive, and you can glue new ones in place. It's more expensive to do that than buying a replacement speaker from Arcade Shop, so I don't think I'm going to do that. Plus that cone is really wet, and yeah, it'd be just, like if I end up spending whatever it is to redo the foam and then find out that speaker is got other issues. So Arcade Shop sells a 4-ohm 6x9 for $10. They also have an 8-ohm, which I'm terrible at audio stuff, so I'm thinking a 4-ohm will be fine. And if I put that in the cabinet and do the PC game route, then hopefully the PC output through an amplifier and into the little 4-ohm speaker replacement will be fine. I know the watts will be fine because the new replacement speakers are pretty beefy, and the little amp that I bought for my bar top project is a really weak, in fact probably way too weak amplifier. It's not that strong at all. So yeah, so that's where I'm at. Ordering parts possibly from Arcade Shop, probably the 4-ohm replacement speaker, 2 coin surrounds and flaps, and then I need to put the side panels back on for the monitor shelf, put the monitor shelf back on, and then I have to get a 19-inch by I think it's about 17-inch piece of 3/4-inch MDF to put in here and cut a hole in it that matches the one in my other cabinet. Another thing, I don't know if I said in the last video or not, but I do know how to line that piece of wood up. It lines up against this, which I scraped the old bits of glue and the panel that was on here off. I messed up a little bit and went too deep in this one little area, but the rest is good, and the other side is nice and flush with all the glue removed. But that piece of wood goes up against here and then up against there. So I cut the staples off because I wasn't going to risk pounding them out and this thing coming off. It's on there really good with its original staples. So I cut the staples off that were sticking out this way that came in through the back to hold this missing panel in place, and got as much of the glue and extra wood off as I could, so that when I get the replacement board, I should be able to put a bunch of glue on this and the other side, put some glue down there, have somebody hold it in place for me, and then also do the drill thing to screw it in place, and then at that point I can go to the other side. I'll have this mounted to the piece of wood for the other side, and then I'll just go to the other side and do the screw and mount also. So that's where I'm at right now, getting the wife upset that I'm doing this in the house because it's crappy out, and yeah, so progress and discovery of why I believe things are the way they are in this cabinet, but it should be a lot better now that I've hopefully taken care of the upper section so it's doesn't have giant gaps and is holding together firm now.